Alright, so today is the actual race day. It's around almost 5 o'clock in the morning. So just gonna go over my last thoughts before I actually go race. So I'm gonna have like two contingency plans. So plan A is gonna be the ideal. In a perfect world, how I would race. So that would be just keeping my marathon pace the whole way through, which is 5 minutes and 30 seconds per kilometer. So that would put me comfortably under 4 hours before I finish. And then plan B would be what I mentioned in the last video, which is to go super conservative at my easy pace for a first uphill section during the first 10 kilometers. And then the finishing time would be between 4 and 4 hours and 15 minutes. And then plan C is if I hit the wall at mile 32, mile 20, the 32nd kilometer. So if in case I hit the wall, it'll probably take like 15 to 20 minutes to refuel. So that will put me at like after 4.5 hours. Then plan D is just to finish it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Alright, so just got my bag checked. So now we're gonna dump it off in one of those trucks. Oh, got it.
Water section after 10 kilometers and banana. 3, 2, 1, let's go!
Right, so it is the next day, and after being incapacitated for quite a while, I am finally ready to talk about how my race went, any differences between my predictions and the actual results, and what I've learned, what I would do differently if I were to train for my first marathon once again. So let's start getting into the first part, which is the predictions and results. So going into this race, my plan was to either keep my marathon pace for a whole way through, or plan B was to go easy on all the uphills, especially during the first half, sort of pick my pace back up for all the downhills, try to bank enough time in case I slowed down for the last little bit. And then plan C was to just walk until I refuel in case I hit the wall. Right, so during the actual race, I think I mostly followed plan B, even though there are some slight deviations. So in the first few kilometers, it's super congested, so I couldn't really pick up any pace anyways, and that kind of helped me slow myself down, not to tire myself out for the later half. And then climbing up to the first 10 kilometers, I kind of followed the plan, which is to go slow and conserve more energy. But then from the 20th kilometer to around 30 kilometer, the downhill didn't really give me that push that I needed, so I couldn't go past my goal marathon pace or even at my marathon pace, perhaps due to my fatigue and my overestimation on how steep the downhill would be and how much assistance that would give me in terms of speed. So I couldn't really bank enough time for when I slowed down for the last little bit during the last climb from the Cross Harbor Tunnel to the bridge and then towards the finish line. During that little bit, my pace dipped quite a lot. So my goal pace was around 5 minutes and 30 seconds per kilometer during the last little bit, even though I didn't hit the wall, or neither did I have to come to a stop or a walk. My pace sort of dipped from 5 minutes 30 to 6 minutes 30 seconds per kilometer to sometimes even 7 minutes. So the last little bit was quite tough, but I'm happy to report that the uphill wasn't as steep as I thought. So even in practice, I've had like steeper hills to run on, and that didn't felt as hard as I thought it would be, even though I had to slow down quite a bit just to like survive to the end. So that's something for me to keep in mind, is to work on my muscular endurance a little bit more, and also my mostly muscular endurance and some power to get through the uphill sections better in the future. And then as for something I think I did quite okay during the race was my nutrition and not breaking form. So firstly, let's talk about nutrition. 2 days going into the race, I had a 2-day carb load. I had around like 450-ish grams of carbs for the last 2 days leading into the race, mostly through rice. And then during the race day, for the breakfast, I had like 4 slices of toast with honey. So during the race, I had 1 pack of gel every 30 to 40 minutes, and that got me through the whole thing. And what went quite well was that I wasn't really bloated when I was eating so much. I'm not used to eating that much carbs ever. I've never eaten that much in my life. So not getting bloated, I'm super lucky. I think I'm super lucky to not be bloated during that carb loading phase or even during the race. Neither did I shit myself. That's something I worried about. So I actually woke up quite early that morning to try and shit. Nothing came out, so thankfully that didn't happen during the race. But downing that 7 packs of gels didn't feel too bad. I actually kind of felt I was craving it a little bit, really. And during the last little bit of the race, I was getting quite thirsty, so I had more sports drinks. Never usually hydrate this much or fuel this much on any of my long runs, really. But I'm not sure if it's the nerves or if I'm working harder than usual with all the elevation gain. But that's what happened during the actual race. So a lot more fueling when I ran my marathon. So I think fueling is something that went well and according to plan. The second thing was keeping my form. So I didn't really break my form. I had, when I was getting uphill and when I was getting tired, all I changed was shortening my stride length, but try to keep my cadence up. From some photos, I could see that my foot was flaring out a little bit, but it wasn't so bad that I hurt myself. So I didn't experience any pains other than like muscular soreness. So that's something I'm very happy about, since I actually got injured after running 10 kilometers last year. Probably because of my poor running form and loaded my ankles a little bit too much. But that didn't happen this year, and I'm like quite happy about that. So these are the 2 things I think I did well. And something for me to work on is to build more muscular endurance and muscular power. Perhaps during the next build phase, I'll have to incorporate more hill sprints to add some more power, and so that I can tackle the uphills a little bit better, and also muscular endurance. So even during high rocks after the sled push, I was really feeling the burn, and I couldn't really go again for the run again, even though it's like a 2-station sort of relay race. But so these are the 2 things I'm gonna have to work on. Right. So that's mostly it for my predictions and the actual results for the marathon. I couldn't really do a sub 4, but I buffered that kind of time for all the uphills, and I think I'm quite happy about 4 hour and 15-ish minutes finishing time. So yeah, I'm quite satisfied. It's one thing to finish a marathon and another to feel satisfied, and with this result I'm quite happy. So now let's move on to talking about what I would do differently in regards to my training plan. So I downloaded the training plan from Coros. I just followed it. Didn't really edit anything other than adding a 10K race in the middle of it. That's sort of the only change I made. So I can link the training plan to the description below, and then you can check it out. But that's generally what I followed. So one thing I would do differently if I were to train for my first marathon again is to sort of build more volume during base building and then add intensity afterwards. What I did was adding volume and intensity at the same time. So right after I raced my half marathon in early December last year, I started doing longer runs with marathon paced intervals in between. So before I was only used to doing like 20, kilometers for my longest runs. But then come December, I was adding both volume, so I was doing 28, 30, 32, 34 kilometer long runs with like goal marathon paced effort intervals in between all of these longer runs. So it's quite a lot more for your body to handle if you're adding both volume and intensity at the same time. When I did my base building last summer, volume, I tried to build volume, but it was never as much as like 30 something kilometers. If I were to do it again, then I would do a longer base building just to build the volume first. So if I could easily handle like 28, 30, 32 kilometer long runs, just doing them at easy pace, getting very used to them before sort of condensing them down and then adding more intensity. So that would be like, perhaps I would finish a 32 kilometer long run at easy pace. Moving on to the next stage, which is building speed, I would condense them, dropping it back down to maybe like 25, but then at a faster speed with marathon paced intervals in between. So that's the biggest change I would make, which is to separate out the phases of my training blocks. Separate it into building volume only in the base building period, and then building more speed during the build period. So that's something I would do differently in the future. But otherwise, I think I had faith in my plan. I followed it, and then it got me through the finish line. So yeah, without any injury. So that's already something for me to be happy about. And I learned so much in just 1 year about running. I didn't even know about like zone 2 running like 1 year ago. Something I learned quite new. And yeah, running a fair marathon, you're gonna learn a lot about running. It's not something that many people do. So if you have run a marathon, you're probably more knowledgeable about running than the average person. But then like compare yourself to other runners, I'm very beginner level person. So yeah, after doing this, I think I learned quite a lot about running, and it's something that is very enjoyable for me. And finishing a marathon is, many people say the finishing line is something super rewarding to be at. I didn't really feel like that. I didn't find it that different than any of my usual Sunday long runs, except this time I paid for it. But at the finishing line, I was like, yeah, I got it done. But something super rewarding is to see everyone else cheering for you, seeing them being so happy for you. That's something I find that a lot more rewarding than me finishing the race. So yeah, my girlfriend, shout out to her, my girlfriend, she made me this sign. Even though I didn't see her at the finishing line. Yeah, it's a very nice gesture, and I think seeing other people being so happy for me is infinitely more rewarding than just me finishing a marathon. I don't think it's an individual achievement. It's something that I want to share with everyone. I got into running to learn more about it so that I am more informed about the sport. Now that my dad's into running too, I want to learn more about it so that I can be better informed. I won't give him the wrong information about like running, something like that. I just want to it's a sport to share with others, even though it's an individual sport. You run your own race, but at the end of the day, it's also quite a community building sport. There's so many run clubs, and then once you start getting into it, sort of other people around you kind of get the same energy. It's quite infectious, I think. So I think that's the most rewarding thing about finishing this race. But yeah, that's how I felt finishing this race. So now I'm just gonna focus on recovering, and perhaps my next steps would be to, after I recover, do more base building again. Now that I know more about my pace zones, I can use my pace zones a little bit more rather than my heart rate, especially in such a humid city. My heart rate kind of spikes a lot when it gets humid. So learning more about my pace zones, doing easy runs, more in accordance to my pace zones instead of my heart rate zones, or maybe using both as a metric, and of course listening to my own perceived exertion levels to sort of inform my next base building period. So that's something I'm looking forward to. And yeah, so now I'm just gonna focus on recovering and perhaps make a little bit more videos. Still trying to find out the best workflow for making videos so that I don't have to spend so much time filming and then editing. I can just like pop out videos here and there. Trying to be more efficient in making them because it's something I want to work on, really. Yeah, so other than running, making videos is something I'm working on as well. Trying to speak a little bit better in front of the camera. Yeah, so these are some things I'm going to be looking forward to. So yeah, I will keep you posted.